You've just pulled into a quiet place at the edge of nowhere, where engines cool, the air thins, and the silence feels a little too heavy to be empty. Tonight's stories come from the high roads of Colorado's mountain passes, where truckers whisper about things they've seen between the curves, headlights that vanish mid-turn, voices that shouldn't travel through the snow, and rest stops that no longer exist on any map. These aren't your usual campfire tales. These are true accounts, strange, quiet encounters from drivers who never asked to believe in the things waiting up their dot. And if you're watching this to fall asleep, you might want to keep one ear open. Most people drift off before the end, but a few say they still hear the CB static long after the video stops. Before we start, I'm curious, what time is it where you are right now? And where are you watching from tonight? Let me know down in the comments. Now, get comfortable. Keep your lights low. Here are tonight's encounters. The first time I saw her, it was snowing so hard I couldn't see the end of my own hood. The headlights caught just the edges of her pale skin, dark hair plastered to her face, and for a second, I thought it was just the wind making shapes out of the snow. Then she moved. She was standing dead center of the road, right on the curve before Loveland Pass, waving both arms like she was trying to flag me down. I remember slamming the brakes and feeling the whole rig shudder beneath me. The trailer fishtailed. My coffee spilled across the dash, and my heart jumped into my throat. I hit the horn, long blaring, but she didn't even flinch. I still don't know why I didn't just keep driving. Maybe it was instinct or guilt, or just that thing in you that can't leave someone behind in a storm like that. Whatever it was, I pulled to the shoulder, hazard lights flashing against the whiteout. When I opened the door, the cold punched me in the chest so hard I couldn't breathe for a second. The air was thin up there. It always is on the pass, but that night it felt sharper, heavier. "Hey!" I shouted over the wind. "You all right?" She didn't answer. Her head tilted a little, like she was listening for something else, not me. The snow was so thick I couldn't see more than 10 feet in front of the truck, but I could hear the crunch of my boots and the low hiss of the engine behind me. And beneath all that, a kind of a deep vibration, like power lines buzzing overhead, except there were no lines out there. When I got closer, I saw she was barefoot. Her feet were half buried in the snow, red and raw, but she didn't seem to notice. Her dress, if you could call it that, was soaked through and clinging to her like a hospital gown. "Ma'am?" I tried again, my voice breaking in the wind. "You need help? You're gonna freeze out here." She looked up then, and I swear, I almost stumbled backward. Her eyes were glassy, almost white, but not blind. They were locked on me, unfocused but direct, like she was seeing me from somewhere far away. "Truck," she said softly. Just one word. "Truck," I blinked. "Yeah, that's mine." "You need to get inside, it's warm." She shook her head. "No, truck." That's when I noticed she wasn't looking at me. She was looking past me, over my shoulder, toward the truck's headlights cutting through the snow. For a second, I thought maybe she'd been in an accident, or her car had gone off the road. I turned to look where she was staring, but there was nothing but white swirling in the beam of my high beams. When I turned back around, she was gone. I swear, not even 2 seconds. She was just gone. No footprints, no shape in the snow. Nothing. I stood there a good minute, scanning the road, calling out, but it was just wind and snow and the low growl of my engine echoing off the pass. I finally climbed back into the cab, shaking so bad I dropped my gloves twice. The heat blasted against my face, but it didn't touch the chill that had crawled under my skin. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, trying to tell myself I was overtired. I'd been driving 14 hours already, coming out of Kansas, trying to make it through the mountains before the next storm hit. But when I looked in the side mirror, I froze. There were footprints leading up to my door. Fresh ones. Bare feet, pressed deep into the snow. But there were no prints walking away. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, the storm had passed, and the world outside was white and still. The kind of quiet that hums in your ears. I told myself again it was a trick of the light. Maybe some runaway who got picked up by someone else. Maybe I'd imagined it completely. Then I saw the handprint on the inside of the passenger side window. A perfect, wet palm print, like someone had pressed their hand against the glass while it was fogged up from the heater. Only I'd been alone. I sat there staring at it for a long time before I finally started the engine again. I had a delivery to make in Frisco, and I just wanted to be done with that stretch of road. For a few hours, things felt normal again. The snow melted off the hood, the sky opened up, and I started to think maybe I'd hallucinated the whole thing. But then the CB crackled. Static, then a voice. "Breaker 19, you hearing this, brother?" I grabbed the mic, relieved to hear another driver. "Copy that. You out here on 70? A pause. Then, "Loveland Pass. You see her too?" I went cold. "See who?" I asked. "Don't play dumb," the voice said. "The woman. Stands right in the road, waving, barefoot. Don't ever stop, man. You hear me? Don't ever stop for her." I tried to answer, but the line cut off. Just static. I checked my channel, switched frequencies, nothing. Dead air. When I rolled into the rest stop outside Dillon, I asked the guys there if they'd heard anything weird on the radio. Nobody had. They just looked at me like I was crazy. That night I parked by the edge of the lot, facing the mountains. The sky was clear again, stars like needles against the dark. I killed the engine, laid back in the sleeper, and tried to shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Somewhere after midnight, I woke up to knocking. 3 slow knocks on the passenger side door. I froze. The rest stop was quiet, too quiet. The wind had died down completely. I reached for my flashlight and shined it through the cab. Nothing. Knock, knock, knock. Right beside me now. I crawled up to the seat and peered through the window. There was a woman standing there. She wasn't wearing a coat. Her hair hung in streams across her face, and her skin had that same pale, waxy look. The same one. I could barely breathe. "Please," she said. Her lips barely moved. "He's still out there." My hand was shaking so hard the flashlight beam danced all over the glass. "Who?" I whispered. She pointed over her shoulder toward the mountain road. "Truck." Then, right before my eyes, she stepped backward and disappeared into the dark. Not ran, not faded. Just gone. I didn't drive the next day. I couldn't. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. Every time I looked at the road sign for Loveland Pass, my chest tightened like something was squeezing me from the inside. By the 3rd day, I convinced myself to keep moving. I took a load south toward Fairplay, away from the pass. I kept the radio off, didn't talk to anyone, didn't stop until the tank was near empty. But the thing is, the fear doesn't leave you once it gets in. Every time I looked in the mirrors, I expected to see her face there, pale against the glass. Every patch of fog on the road looked like a figure. Every CB crackle made me jump. That night I stayed in a motel outside Georgetown. The guy at the front desk was old, wiry, smelled like coffee and cigarettes. When I asked if there'd been any accidents near Loveland recently, he just sighed. "Always," he said. "People go off that road every winter. Bad curves, worse weather." "Any women?" I asked quietly. He looked up at me. "You saw her, didn't you?" I didn't answer. He leaned closer, voice low. "She was a nurse years back. Driving home from the hospital, late shift. Hit black ice on the curve and went over. They didn't find her till spring thaw. Every winter since, she shows up when the weather turns." I felt my stomach twist. "You're serious?" He nodded slowly. "Some say she warns truckers before the road ice is over. Others say she's looking for the driver that hit her before she went off the edge." I didn't sleep much after that. 3 nights later, I was headed east again, against my better judgment. I told myself it was superstition, that if I just drove through, got it over with, maybe it would break whatever spell that place had on me. Halfway up the pass, the radio came alive again. Static, then a voice, soft female, slow down. I slammed the brakes without thinking. My rig skidded sideways, tires squealing, the trailer swinging wide. The truck stopped inches from the guardrail. When I looked ahead, the road was gone. Completely iced over. Another 50 feet, and I would have gone right off the cliff. The radio hissed again. Faint, he's still out there. I sat there shaking, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd black out. The road behind me was empty. No headlights, no sound. Then I saw the handprint again, this time on the inside of the windshield. Fresh, wet. And right below it, drawn in the condensation, were 2 words, turn back. I don't know what made me look in the mirror then. Maybe instinct, maybe fear. But when I did, I saw something that still makes my stomach drop even thinking about it. There was a figure standing on the back step of my trailer. A man. Tall, heavy coat, hood up. Just standing there in the snow, holding onto the ladder. My floodlights barely touched him, but I saw the shine of his eyes, wide, unblinking, reflecting my taillights. Then he started walking toward the cab. Slow, heavy steps crunching in the snow. I didn't wait to see what he wanted. I threw the truck in gear and floored it. The trailer lurched, tires spun, the whole rig screaming as it clawed for traction. In the mirror, I saw him stumble, fall, and then he wasn't there anymore. When I finally made it down the other side, my hands were so numb I couldn't feel the wheel. I pulled into the first gas station I saw, sat there shaking for what felt like an hour. The attendant came out and tapped on my window. "You okay, man? You're white as a sheet." I nodded, tried to play it off. "Just tired, long night." He looked down the side of my truck, frowned. "You hit something?" I followed his gaze. Along the trailer from end to end were streaks of blood, thin, smeared lines, like fingers dragged along the metal while I was driving. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I can't drive through Loveland Pass without seeing her in the corner of my eye. Every trip she's closer. Sometimes it's just a flash of white in the mirror. Sometimes I hear knocking again, soft, steady, patient. I didn't go back to Loveland for a while after that night. But the road has a way of calling you back, especially when it's your job. Freight doesn't stop for ghosts. For a couple of weeks, I stayed on lowland routes, Denver to Pueblo, Colorado Springs, sometimes out to New Mexico. Every time dispatch mentioned a run through the mountains, I found an excuse. Engine trouble, still waiting on tires. Snow chains busted. Lies, all of them. But the nightmares didn't care where I drove. They started with the sound of knocking. 3 slow taps. Then the woman's voice whispering through the CB, repeating that same phrase, "He's still out there." Sometimes I'd wake up drenched in sweat, convinced I could hear footsteps crunching beside my truck. I'd throw open the door and find nothing but the smell of exhaust and the faint trace of wet footprints that vanished by morning. The worst part wasn't the dreams, though. It was the feeling that she'd followed me, that somehow, by stopping that night, I'd taken her with me. The first time I realized she had, I was parked outside a diner near Idaho Springs. Early morning. Frost on the mirrors. A couple of truckers at the counter, coffee steaming. The kind of dead quiet that hangs before the sun comes up. Went out to the rig to grab my logbook. The inside of the windshield was fogged over again. And on it, faint, drawn with a fingertip, were words that stopped my heart. "Don't let him in." I stood there, staring, until someone inside the diner shouted my name. When I turned back, the writing was gone. Just condensation dripping down the glass. That same day, dispatch finally gave me a route I couldn't talk my way out of, a tanker pickup near Silverthorne. The only road in and out ran through Loveland Pass. By dusk, I was back on the mountain. The weather had turned ugly again, that fine. glittering kind of snow that moves like smoke across the road. My wipers barely kept up. Every sign I passed was rimmed with ice. It was stupid to be out there, but I couldn't say no without drawing questions. I told myself I'd make it quick, just up and over, no stops. No heroics. Halfway up the grade, I saw the first sign of trouble. Fresh tire tracks leading off the shoulder, ending in a jagged break of guardrail. Flashing lights cut through the fog ahead, 2 state troopers and a tow truck. I slowed, waved as I passed, trying not to look. But curiosity is a hard thing to kill. In the ditch below, I saw what was left of a pickup, crumpled, roof torn open, the driver's door missing, and standing just a few feet from the wreck, half hidden in the trees, was her. The woman, barefoot, still wearing that same soaked gown, hair whipping in the wind, but this time, she wasn't looking at me. She was staring into the woods. I don't know what made me do it, but I pulled over. Again, one of the troopers approached, motioning for me to move along. I rolled down my window. "Hey," I said, pointing. "That woman over there, she okay?" The trooper frowned. "What woman?" "The one by the tree line. She's..." I turned back. She was gone. Just the trees now, black against the snow. The trooper leaned down to my window. "You all right, sir?" "Yeah," I lied. "Long week." He nodded and walked off, but I could feel it again, that same hum under my skin, like the air itself was alive. The radio stayed off after that, but the silence was worse. Every creak of the cab, every gust of wind sounded like movement outside. When I reached the summit, I started down the western side, brakes humming, engine brake growling low. The road curved tight, snow swirling like smoke, and then I saw headlights in my mirrors. At first, I thought it was another truck catching up, but the lights didn't move right. They weaved too close to the shoulder, then vanished completely. When they came back on, they were closer. I pressed the accelerator a little. The rig groaned, tires slipping slightly on the grade. The lights disappeared again. This time, they didn't come back. I kept glancing in the mirror, waiting, counting the seconds. 10, 20, 30, nothing. Just darkness. Then the knocking started. 3 slow knocks. From inside the sleeper. I don't remember pulling over. I just remember the sound of the air brakes hissing, my heartbeat roaring in my ears. I turned slowly, toward the back of the cab. The curtain was half open. A shadow moved behind it, a shape, shifting. "Who's there?" I croaked. The curtain moved again. I reached for the flashlight, switched it on. Nothing, empty, but the smell hit me then. Wet earth, cold air, and underneath it, that metallic tang of old blood. I turned back to the windshield and froze. Someone had written in the fog again, "He's in the trailer." Every instinct told me to get out of that truck, but the wind outside was howling so hard it shook the mirrors. I grabbed my flashlight anyway, threw on my coat, and climbed down. Snow lashed my face, stinging my eyes. My boots crunched through the powder as I circled toward the rear of the trailer. The door was still latched, padlock intact, but something was thumping from inside. Slow, heavy. Thud. Then again. Thud. Like someone shifting weight, bumping against the metal walls. I stood there, heart hammering, breath clouding in front of me. Every hair on my body stood on end. I stepped closer, pressed my ear to the cold steel. Silence. Then a whisper. "Open it." I stumbled back so fast I nearly slipped. The voice was low, almost drowned by the wind, but it was right there. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I climbed back into the cab, slammed the door, locked it. When I looked at the rearview mirror, the woman was standing behind the truck again. Her head tilted, hair whipping across her face. One arm raised, pointing toward the trailer. "Open it," she mouthed. I shook my head, started the engine, and drove. I didn't care about the load, the schedule. The mountain, I just wandered off that road. By the time I hit the bottom of the pass, the trailer had gone quiet. I pulled into a way station lot, parked, and just sat there, shaking. It was almost dawn. The snow had stopped. My eyes burned from exhaustion. I got out again, half hoping it had all been in my head. When I walked around to the back, I noticed the padlock was still hanging there, but the metal was warped, like something had pushed out from inside. The latch was bent, edges sharp where it had been forced. I hesitated, then lifted it. The door creaked open a few inches before catching. A wave of air rolled out, cold and sour, like rot. I raised the flashlight, aimed it inside. Empty. Just the echo of the beam hitting steel walls. But then I saw it, smeared across the floor, barely visible under the frost. A single barefoot print. After that night, I quit trucking for a while. Sold the rig, moved into a small apartment near Denver. Tried to start over. Didn't matter. The knocks followed me. Not every night, but often enough. Always 3. Always soft. Sometimes from the window. Sometimes from the wall behind my bed. And sometimes when I'd wake up, I'd find condensation on the glass like breath. And those same words written faintly in the fog. He's still out there. I thought maybe she wanted me to find whoever he was. Maybe it would stop if I did. So I started looking. Accident records, local papers, old radio chatter forums for drivers. It took weeks, but I finally found it. An archived police report from 1987. Nurse named Lydia Crane drove off Loveland Pass during a snowstorm. Vehicle recovered months later. No skid marks. No brake lights recorded by the only witness, another trucker who claimed her car just vanished. The man's name was Thomas Rayner. 2 months later, his rig was found abandoned halfway up the same pass. Engine still running. Cab door open. No sign of him. When I read that, something in me went cold, because the trailer he'd been pulling, same model as mine. Same company, even. And the manifest listed his cargo as medical waste transfer. Lydia Crane worked at a hospital in Frisco. She would have known that truck. And maybe she saw him on the road that night. A week later, I drove back. It was stupid. I knew it. But I couldn't take it anymore. The knocking, the whispers, the messages. If she wanted me to find something, I'd find it. I rented a pickup, brought a flashlight, a radio, and a camera. By midnight, I was parked on the same stretch where I'd first seen her. The air was thin, biting cold. Snow flurries danced in the high beams. "Lydia," I said out loud, feeling ridiculous. "I know who you are. I just want to help." For a while, nothing. Just the low moan of the wind. Then, footsteps. Soft, crunching through the snow behind me. I turned slowly. She was standing there, a few yards away, closer than before. Her skin looked almost translucent under the headlights. Her eyes weren't angry, they were sad. Desperate. "What do you want?" I whispered. She lifted her arm, pointed toward the edge of the road. The same curve where the guardrail bent outward. Half repaired from years of accidents. Then she whispered, "He's still there." Before I could move, the ground beneath me gave way, snow collapsed, and I went down hard, sliding on my stomach toward the ravine. My hands clawed at the edge, nails scraping metal, barely catching on a chunk of frozen rail. When I finally stopped, I looked down, and there it was. Half buried in the snow below. The rusted frame of a tanker trailer. The logo was still visible. My old company's. I climbed down slowly, heart pounding, until I stood beside it. The steel was torn open on one side, like something had exploded from within. Inside, I found the remains of a driver's uniform. The old patch logo faded, but still legible. Rayner Freight, and right beside it, frozen in the ice, was a hand, not skeletal. Not rotten, fresh. The first time I heard her voice on Channel 19, I thought someone was messing with me. Truckers screw around on the radio all the time. Ghost stories, pranks, voices pitched low through voice changers. But this didn't sound like a joke. It was late, close to 2 a.m., and I was hauling through the I-70 corridor, snow starting to drift across the lanes. The road was empty. No tail lights, no oncoming glare. Just me, the hum of the tires, and the occasional pop of static from the CB. Then the static changed. A soft, shaky voice broke through, almost drowned out by the hiss. "Breaker 19. You copy?" It was a woman, young, breathless, like she was running. I picked up the mic. "Copy that. Breaker 19. You out here tonight?" Silence. Then, "He's following me." The hairs on my arms stood up. Say again, ma'am?" "You in trouble?" The line crackled, faded, came back with a burst of wind and a faint sob. "He's right behind me." "I can't." Then nothing. Just static. I waited. Called again. Switched channels. Nothing. After a few minutes, I figured maybe it was Skip, radio signals bouncing weird off the mountains, catching transmissions from God knows where. Happens sometimes this far up. Still, I couldn't shake her voice. The fear in it. About 20 minutes later, another driver chimed in. "Breaker 19, anyone else getting weird chatter tonight?" I keyed the mic. "Yeah, you hear that woman too?" The other driver paused. "What woman?" I let go of the button, staring at the radio like it might explain itself. An hour later, I hit a rest area just outside Silver Plume. The place was empty, except for a couple of rigs idling near the back. I parked under the lights, killed the engine, and sat there in the quiet hum of the CB. The silence was heavy, like the air before a storm. Then, faintly, the radio hissed again. "Breaker 19. Help me." The voice was clearer this time. I grabbed the mic so fast I almost dropped it. "This is Roadrunner, I copy. What's your location?" Static. Then a whisper. "You passed me." I looked out the window. Nothing but snow and asphalt glowing under yellow lights. "Say again?" "I can see your truck," she said softly. "Red lights." "It's you." A cold wave ran down my spine. I turned off the cabin lights, stared out into the dark lot. Nobody there. No headlights, no movement. Just the slow swirl of snowflakes catching in the glow of the floodlights. "Where are you?" I whispered into the mic. "Behind you." The CB went dead. I didn't sleep that night. Every noise made me jump. The creak of the cab, the hiss of the heater, even my own breath fogging the window. Around dawn, I gave up and got back on the road. By midday, the sky cleared and the world felt normal again. Coffee, gas stations, daylight, all of it grounded me. I almost convinced myself it was just late-night brain fog. Then, around Vale, the radio came alive again. "Breaker 19. Roadrunner, you copy?" My hand froze halfway to my cup. I hadn't said my handle that night. Not on air. I grabbed the mic slowly. "Who is this?" "Keep driving," she said. "Don't pull over." I checked the mirrors out of instinct. Nothing but white highway stretching behind me. "Ma'am, who are you?" "Do you need help?" Static swallowed her words, then spat them back in fragments. "He's Channel. Behind you. Don't answer." Then another voice came through. Low, male, calm. "Breaker 19. Hey sweetheart, you lost out here?" The woman gasped on the line. "Don't talk to him." The channel filled with noise, overlapping voices, feedback, a sound like someone pounding the mic. I slammed the volume down, heart hammering. When the static finally faded, I was alone again. That night, I parked at a truck stop in Glenwood Springs. Busy place, lights, engines, people walking between rigs. Safety in numbers. I ordered food inside, talked to a few other drivers. Everyone had their own weird story about mountain routes, phantom hitchhikers, Strange radio chatter, lights in the trees. But nobody mentioned a woman on the CB. When I got back to my truck, I noticed something odd. The CB was on. I always turn it off when I leave the cab, habit drilled into me. But the dial was glowing faint green, speaker hissing softly. I leaned in and reached to shut it off, and froze. Someone whispered my name, not my handle. My real name, Eli. My hand trembled. Who is this? No answer, just breathing slow, shaky, like someone right beside the mic. I turned the unit off and sat there in the dark, listening to my own pulse thunder in my ears. That's when I noticed something else. Every other truck in the lot had their engines idling, a low rumble that usually blends into white noise. But now, one by one, they started shutting off. Lights flicked out. The air went still, until it was just me and the soft crackle of a dead radio. The next morning, I checked the CB wiring, thinking maybe it was shorting out somehow. Everything looked fine. The fuse, the power line, the antenna, all normal. When I hit the road again, I kept the unit off. But around midday, it clicked itself back on. No sound at first, just the low hum of static. Then that man's voice again. Breaker 19. I know you can hear me. I gripped the wheel tighter. Where's my girl? He said, you tell her I'm still coming. You tell her she can't hide forever. The radio popped and hissed. She said you'd help her, he added, quieter now. Said you're a good man. But you ain't, you're like me. The voice crackled into laughter. I yanked the power cord out completely. The radio stayed on. That was the moment I realized I wasn't dealing with a prank. No human voice should keep coming through with no power. The glow from the display was faint, pulsing like a heartbeat. I pulled over, jumped out of the cab, slammed the door. The snow was coming down again, fat flakes that stuck to my jacket and hat. I walked a few yards into the dark lot, trying to get distance. Behind me, through the fog of exhaust, I could still hear the radio, faint, distorted, but still talking. You can't drive forever. Eli. I left the rig idling and walked into the diner across the road. The waitress barely looked up. The place smelled like burnt coffee and fryer grease. I sat down, hands trembling. After a few minutes, a man in a trucker's jacket slid onto the stool next to me. Gray beard, weathered face, eyes like cracked ice. You runnin' Channel 19 last night? He asked. I hesitated. Yeah, why? He nodded slowly. You heard her, didn't you? I stared. You know about her? He picked at his napkin. Been hearing her for years. Some folks say she's a lost dispatcher from back when the radio lines used to bounce between towers. Others say she's a warning. I don't think she's either. What do you think she is? He looked at me then, and there was something raw in his expression. I think she's still out there, he said quietly. And so is the one who took her. Before I could ask more, he stood, tossed a few bills on the counter, and walked out. When I looked outside, he was gone. No truck, no taillights. Nothing. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. I parked at a turnout overlooking the valley, far from any towns. Moonlight reflected off the snow, painting everything silver and empty. I plugged the radio back in. At first, just static. Then, Eli. My breath caught. You shouldn't have come back, she said. He'll hear you. Who? I whispered. Who's he? He used to drive too, she said softly. He picks up strays. Lonely voices. Ones who listen. My throat was dry. What do you want me to do? Stay off the channel, she said. If you hear him again, don't answer. Then, faintly, through her whisper, came another voice, deeper, rasping like gravel dragged across metal. I already found you. The radio squealed with feedback so loud, I ripped the cord out again. The sound didn't stop. It was coming from outside. I killed the lights, slid the curtain shut, and sat in the dark, holding my breath. The wind pushed against the cab, rocking it gently. Then I heard it. Faint tapping against the driver's door. 3 times. I stayed still. Tap, tap, a pause, then a voice. Muffled by the glass. Breaker 19. You copy? I froze. The same phrase. The same cadence. Only this time, it wasn't coming from the radio. It was coming from right outside. I didn't move. The voice outside the cab repeated itself. Calm, patient, like whoever it was already knew I was listening. Breaker 19. You copy? I forced myself to look. Through the frost on the window, I saw a shape standing by the door. Too still. No flashlight. No reflective gear. Just a dark silhouette against the snow. My hand crept toward the ignition key. Before I could turn it, the voice came again, closer now, almost right beside my ear. Go ahead, driver. You can talk to me. I slammed the truck into gear. The engine roared, and I tore out of the turnout, tires spitting snow, headlights slicing through the dark. My pulse hammered so hard, I thought I might pass out. For the next 20 minutes, I drove blind through the storm, not daring to look in the mirrors. Every part of me screamed to keep going. When I finally stopped, I was halfway to Frisco, parked under a bridge where the highway curved. The world was dead quiet, just the tick of cooling metal and the slow melt of snow off the hood. Shut off the engine, waited. Nothing. The CB was dark. I leaned back, trying to breathe, and for a few minutes, it almost worked. The air in the cab was cold, but real. No whispers, no voices, no phantom lights. Then the radio clicked on. No static this time. Just that same man's voice, low and steady. You shouldn't have run, Eli. I grabbed the mic even though I knew it wouldn't matter. Who are you? What do you want? He chuckled. You answered. That's all it takes. My throat closed. Where are you? I whispered. I'm closer than you think. The radio crackled, and I heard another sound beneath his voice, breathing. Not his, hers. Shallow, ragged, terrified. Let her go. I shouted. She's done nothing to you. He laughed again, softer now. She called for help. Same as you did. Same as you will. Then silence when I looked down. The mic light was still glowing, even though the radio wasn't plugged in. I drove through the night, desperate to find a town, a rest area, anything with people. By the time I reached a 24-hour truck stop near Eagle, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely shift gears. Inside, the place smelled like burnt coffee and diesel. The guy behind the counter looked half asleep. You okay, man? He asked. I nodded, though I could barely form the word. Yeah, just tired. He squinted at me. You look like hell. You been driving that red Kenworth out there? I froze. Yeah, why? He hesitated. You were here last week, right? Middle of the night. No, I said slowly. Haven't been this way in months. He frowned. Could have sworn I saw you. Same truck. Same number on the cab. Guy came in, bought coffee, said he was looking for someone on Channel 19. My stomach dropped. What did he look like? He scratched his chin. Tall, heavy jacket. Hood up, didn't talk much. But he hesitated. He left a message. Said to tell you you're next. I barely remember leaving the counter. I was in the cab again before the fear fully hit. My mind was racing, trying to find logic in any of it. Maybe this was a setup. Maybe someone was tracking me, mimicking CB chatter somehow. But how would they know my name? I turned the radio off completely and disconnected the power line. Then I took the mic, rolled down the window, and threw it into the snow. That's when I heard the feedback, not from the CB, from the truck speakers, a faint hum built in the air vents, growing louder, deeper, until the glass started to vibrate. Then her voice came through. Faint and panicked. Eli, don't stop. He's behind you. I slammed the door locks and twisted the ignition. The radio display flickered even though it had no power dot through the side mirror. I saw headlights flare in the distance. At first, they looked normal, twin beams cresting the hill. But then they split, like two sets of eyes gliding through the dark. And then they went out. I tore out of that lot like a bat out of hell, snow spraying behind the trailer. My eyes stayed fixed on the road, but in my mirrors, I could see something following, a shadow keeping perfect distance, gliding along the shoulder where no car should have been able to move. The CB hissed again, louder than before. The voice was back. "You can't save her," the man said. "You can't even save yourself." The windshield fogged instantly, the heater screaming. Words formed in the condensation, scrawled by an unseen hand. "Exit 216, I didn't think. I just followed it." The exit was unmarked, just a narrow curve leading into an old service road, buried in snow. My headlights caught a faded green sign, "Summit Radio Relay. Restricted access." The gate was open. I drove in. At the top of the hill, I found the ruins of an old tower, rusted scaffolding, half-collapsed shack. The kind of place that hasn't seen life in decades. I parked and killed the engine. The silence hit like a punch. No wind, no birds, just emptiness. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down. The snow was deep, almost to my knees. My breath came out in short bursts that hung in the air. The shack's door was half off its hinges. Inside, the floor was covered in drifted snow. A single metal desk sat in the corner, half buried. On it lay an old CB unit. Channel 19 still tuned. The power light, faint but glowing. I reached for it. The speaker hissed. Then her voice. "Help me." I froze. "Where are you?" I whispered. "Right here." The light flickered. The static built, louder and louder, until it was all I could hear. I turned toward the doorway and saw him. A figure standing in the snow, tall and still. Face hidden beneath the hood of a heavy coat. "You shouldn't have come," he said. Voice low and clear now, no static, no distortion. She was mine. My flashlight trembled in my hand. "What do you want?" He smiled, or at least I think he did. A new voice. He took a step closer. The snow under his boots made no sound. Then behind him I saw her, the woman from the radio. Barefoot, hair matted with frost, eyes wide and hollow. She was mouthing something, a warning I couldn't hear. He turned sharply, as if sensing her, and for a second his hood slipped. What I saw underneath wasn't a face. It was just blackness. A moving void, like the absence of light itself. The CB in my hand screamed with feedback. "Eli, run!" She shouted. I dropped the mic and bolted for the truck. My feet slipped on the ice, but adrenaline pushed me forward. Behind me, I heard the man's voice rising in the static, spilling from every direction. "You're tuned in now. You belong to me." I threw myself into the cab and gunned the engine. The lights flickered, but held. The road blurred beneath the tires. In the mirror, I saw him still standing in the middle of the road. The woman was beside him now, fading into the snow like smoke. The radio crackled once more. Her voice, soft, fading. "Thank you." Then silence. I didn't stop driving until sunrise. By then, I was 2 states over, somewhere near Nebraska, and the world looked normal again. The CB was dead. No glow, no sound, no static. I left it that way for a long time. Weeks passed. I tried to forget. Told myself it was stress, exhaustion, maybe a breakdown from too many nights alone on the road. But sometimes when I passed through the mountains, I'd get the faintest whiff of ozone, and the radio dial would twitch even though it was off. I started using my phone instead. Bluetooth, GPS, playlists. I didn't touch another CB until last night. I was sitting in a diner off I-25 when an older trucker slid into the booth across from me. He had the same cracked voice as the one from months back, the same gray eyes. "You still hear her?" he asked. My throat went dry. "No," he nodded slowly. "Good, that means she's gone." I exhaled. Relief flooded through me, almost dizzying. "You knew about her?" He smiled faintly. "We all do. She only talks to the ones who listen too long." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He leaned in. "You think Channel 19's just for truckers?" He shook his head. "That frequency's older than the roads themselves. Sometimes when the weather's right, it opens. You hear people who ain't supposed to be there. Some got lost on those passes decades ago. Some never left." He stood up, tossed a few bills on the table, and said quietly, "Don't turn it back on." Then he walked out. When I looked out the window, the parking lot was empty. No truck, no TAILLIGHTS, just snow falling under the streetlights. I should have listened. Tonight, I couldn't sleep. The wind outside howled like it used to up in the passes. Out of habit, I reached over and flipped the old CB on, just for a second. Static filled the cab. Familiar, comforting, almost. Then a voice, faint, gentle, "Breaker 19. You copy?" I froze. It wasn't her voice this time. It was mine. The blizzard came in faster than the forecast said it would. By the time I hit the summit near Monarch Pass, visibility had dropped to almost zero. The world outside the windshield was just a wall of white snow hammering against the glass like sand. My wipers squealed, struggling to keep up. I'd been hauling insulated freight, pharmaceuticals, from Denver to Durango, a route I knew like the back of my hand. But that night, it didn't look familiar anymore. Every mile marker vanished under snow. Every turn looked like the last. Dispatch came through once, breaking up in the static. Should pull off if you repeat whiteout conditions. Then silence. The CB hissed, sputtered, then went dead. Cell service vanished too. So it was just me, alone in the storm. That's when I saw the taillights, faint, glowing red through the whiteout. Like two embers floating in fog. Another rig, I figured. Maybe a convoy making its way through. Relief hit me like a shot of warmth. I eased forward, keeping distance but close enough not to lose sight. Whoever was driving knew the road. Smooth turns, steady speed. No hesitation. I followed for miles, trusting those lights like a lifeline. But something about them started to feel wrong. They never dimmed or brightened. Never swayed or bounced the way brake lights do over uneven roads. They stayed perfectly level, perfectly still, even when the grade shifted downhill. Then, out of nowhere, they vanished. I slammed the brakes. Tires locked, trailer fishtailing on the ice. My heart jumped into my throat. I waited for the crash, for the impact, but nothing came. Just silence. When I got my bearings, I realized there was no other truck. No tracks in the snow ahead. No glow. I sat there, engine idling, staring into the white void until the exhaust fog swallowed the cab. Finally, I eased back onto the road. 5 minutes later, the taillights appeared again, dead ahead. I didn't question it this time. I just followed. The snow thickened until I couldn't even see the hood of my truck. My headlights bounced back at me, reflecting off a curtain of flakes. I turned the high beams off, relying on the faint red glow ahead. Then the radio flickered. Not CB, my truck radio, which wasn't even on. A man's voice, hollow and distant, drifted through the speakers. Convoy eastbound. 6 rigs, 1 missing. Hold position. I froze. Static followed. Then the same voice again, quieter. Hold position. Repeat. Hold position. I grabbed the mic out of reflex, even though the CB was dead. "This is Roadrunner. I'm solo westbound, over. You reading?" Nothing. Just wind. Then, barely audible through the static. "You're not solo." The road ahead curved sharply. A section I knew led along a steep drop-off. I slowed down, hugging the center line. The taillights stayed steady, right at the curve's edge. I swear I saw them dip off the side of the road, like the truck ahead had just driven straight into the ravine. I stopped cold. Shaking, the snow howled outside. I jumped down from the cab, boots sinking into powder up to my knees. The wind cut like knives across my face. I shined my flashlight toward the edge. Nothing, just white emptiness. No truck. No tracks. Only my own tire marks behind me. I turned back toward the cab and froze. Another set of headlights was rolling up the road behind me. At first, I felt relief again. Another driver, someone else stuck in this hell. But as the lights got closer, they didn't look right. Too dim, too yellow, like old halogen bulbs instead of LEDs. The truck that emerged from the storm looked ancient to 1970s Kenworth. Faded blue paint, chrome grille half rusted. The logo on the door was covered by snow, but I could make out faint letters, Pine Ridge Freight. That company had gone under 20 years ago. The driver rolled his window down as he crept past me. He was pale, face sunken, eyes hidden behind dark glasses even in the storm. He didn't speak, just lifted 2 fingers in a lazy salute and drove on ahead. The red taillights flared again in the snow, the same ones I'd been following. I climbed back into my cab, heart pounding. My breath fogged the inside of the glass. I checked the time, 11:47 p.m., but when I blinked, the clock jumped backward. 11:31. I tapped the dash. It flickered again. 11:09. Snow thickened until I couldn't see anything but white. The headlights of the old truck ahead grew faint, then clear again, like someone was dimming them by hand. I grabbed the mic. Pine Ridge Freight, this is Roadrunner. You copy? A long pause. Then, through the static, you're out of position. The voice wasn't his. It was mine. For the next hour, at least I think it was an hour, I drove in what felt like a loop. Same turn, same frozen sign half buried in snow. Same mile marker every 10 minutes. I started to lose track of time. The temperature gauge dipped below 0. The fuel needle hadn't moved in miles, even though the engine was running hard. When I finally hit what looked like a small rest pullout, I stopped. My whole body was trembling from exhaustion and cold. As I sat there, the radio flickered again. CB this time, a woman's voice this time, soft, clear. You shouldn't follow them, she said. I froze. Who are you? They don't know they're dead, she whispered. The static swelled, then died completely. Outside, shapes began to appear through the snow. Faint outlines of trucks parked along the shoulder. Old rigs, all with that same faded Pine Ridge Freight logo. Their windows were frosted over, windshields opaque with ice, but I could see silhouettes inside each one. Drivers, sitting perfectly still, and through the snow. Faintly, the red glow of 100 taillights stretching up the pass. For a long time, I couldn't make myself move. I just sat there, staring through the windshield at the line of trucks half buried in snow. The storm swirled around them like a living thing, gusts lifting sheets of white that slid across their windshields. Their engines weren't running. No exhaust. No movement. But I could feel them, a pressure in the air, low and constant, like the hum of idling diesel that wasn't really there. My CB clicked on again. Convoy eastbound. Pine Ridge Freight. Hold formation. The voice was mechanical, too clean, like an old recording. Then driver missing. Fill position. A hollow pop of static followed, and then silence. I turned the key to kill my engine, but it stayed running. The gauges all dropped to 0, but the hum didn't stop. The wind outside shifted. Through the curtain of snow, the first truck in line, a massive white Kenworth, flickered its headlights once, like a signal, and then the next truck did. And the next. One by one, all the way down the line, until every dead truck had come to life. I don't know what made me do it. Curiosity, maybe. Or that strange magnetic pull that happens when fear turns into something else. Like you have to see it through. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the storm. The cold hit instantly, slicing through my jacket and gloves. I trudged toward the nearest rig. Boots crunching in snow. The door was half frozen shut. I pulled until it creaked open, metal whining against ice. The cab was dark, empty. No driver. No signs of anyone at all, but the seatbelt was clipped, tight across the driver's seat, like someone invisible was still buckled in. My flashlight flickered. For a second, I thought I saw an imprint in the fabric, the faint shape of a person sitting there. Then the light steadied, and the seat was flat again. Something whispered over the CB. Back in my truck, faint but clear enough to cut through the wind. Eli. Don't. It was the same woman's voice from before. I turned back toward my rig, but the view had changed. The road behind me was gone. Just snow, stretching endlessly. The only things visible were the trucks, lined up in both directions. Now. My truck wasn't where I left it. Panic set in. I stumbled through the drifts, scanning the identical rows for anything familiar. Every truck was the same. Pine Ridge Freight, rusted, abandoned. Then I spotted movement. A figure walking between the rigs. I waved my arm. Hey, over here. The figure stopped, turned its head slightly, though I couldn't see a face through the snow. Then it raised a gloved hand, not waving, just pointing. Behind me. I turned. And saw the lead truck's door swing open. Inside, the cabin light glowed weakly. I don't know why, but I climbed up. The air smelled like diesel and old cigarette smoke, stale and cold. There were logbooks scattered across the dash, pages frozen together. The last entry read, January 6, 1982, hold in position weather too bad. To move convoy HDD. The pen line cut off mid-word. A radio mic dangled from the dashboard. I picked it up without thinking. Breaker 19, this is Roadrunner. Anyone copy? The response came instantly, overlapping voices like 100 drivers speaking in unison. Hold formation. Wait for clearance. Then one voice broke through the others. You took my seat. I dropped the mic. It swung on its cord, clattering against the dash. A sound rose outside, deep, rhythmic. Like 100 engines starting at once, the entire line of trucks began to move. They rolled forward slowly. In perfect unison, headlights cutting through the white. No engines revving, no crunch of snow. Just smooth, silent motion. I jumped down, stumbled back. The ground trembled beneath my boots as they passed, one after another, ghostly and weightless. Through the windows I saw drivers now. Every cab had one, pale faces lit by dashboard glow. Eyes fixed ahead, motionless. I shouted, waved my arms. Anything to get a reaction. Nothing. When the last truck passed, I realized something else. They weren't leaving tire tracks. The woman's voice came again. Closer now, not through the radio, but right beside me. They've been driving that pass for 40 years, she said softly. I spun around. She was standing behind me, a woman in a thick parka, hood pulled low. Snow clung to her hair, her eyelashes. Her face looked human, but wrong somehow. Too pale. They froze in place the night the pass closed, she said. Storm buried them. No one found them until spring. Who are you? I asked. She smiled faintly. I was supposed to be the dispatcher. I kept calling them to hold position. My stomach twisted. You're the one on the radio? She nodded once. They still listen. Her eyes flicked past me. I turned to look. The convoy had looped back around somehow, headlights glowing in the dark, forming a perfect ring. The trucks had surrounded us. They need someone to lead them out, she said. You were listening. That's enough. I backed away, shaking my head. No, I'm not part of this. I'm alive. She took a step closer. Her breath came out in fog that didn't fade. So were they. I ran. I didn't even know which way was down the mountain anymore. Just ran until my lungs burned and my flashlight beam shook across the snow. Behind me, I could hear the convoy moving, the low hum of engines that shouldn't exist. Then headlights bloomed ahead. My truck. I sprinted toward it, yanked the door open, and hauled myself inside. The CB was already on. Driver in position, the voice said. Convoy complete. No, I whispered. No. The ignition key turned on its own. The engine roared. The gear shift moved without my hand. Outside, the trucks aligned behind me. Their lights pulsed once, then held steady. The woman's voice whispered through the speaker. Calm now. Just follow the road, Eli. The wheel started to turn. The gas pedal pressed down. I tried to pull back, to hit the brakes, but nothing responded. My hands moved, but not from me, like someone else was inside my skin. We rolled forward into the snow for hours, maybe longer. I drove with the convoy through a landscape that never changed. The same turn, the same signs, the same ghostly light. Once, I thought I saw dawn breaking through the clouds. Then it faded, replaced by the same heavy dark. The radio stayed alive the whole time. Convoy eastbound. 6 rigs in line. Hold formation. Over and over. I screamed into the mic until my voice cracked, but nothing answered. Then, suddenly, the storm began to clear. The snow thinned, the sky lightened. Ahead, the pass opened onto the valley, a long sweeping descent into forest. For the first time in hours, I saw color. Blue sky, sunlight hitting the snow, and I realized I was alone again. No convoy. No trucks. Just me. I slammed the brakes, heart racing. The truck skidded, stopped halfway down the grade. Silence. Then the CB clicked on. You made it out, she whispered. I let out a shaky laugh, half relief, half disbelief. It's over? But she didn't answer. Instead, a man's voice came through, flat. Official. This is Colorado Highway Patrol to any drivers on 50 westbound. Be advised, road closure due to recovery operations. Wreckage from the Pine Ridge convoy located near mile marker 206. Static, then no survivors. I sat there, staring at the CB, waiting for something else. A sign, a sound. Anything to prove I wasn't losing my mind. The radio stayed dead. Finally, I put the truck back in gear and started driving again, slow and steady. The sky was bright now, almost painfully so after all that white. But when I looked in my side mirror, my stomach dropped. 6 sets of headlights followed behind me, all spaced perfectly apart, all keeping pace. That night, parked at a motel outside Gunnison, I tried to sleep. The storm had passed completely. Clear stars, calm air. But around midnight, a familiar sound pulled me out of a half-dream, the soft hum of an idling engine outside my window. I looked through the curtains. 6 trucks sat lined up along the road. Same faded blue paint, same rusted chrome. Their engines weren't running, and yet the headlights glowed faintly red. My CB, sitting on the desk, flipped on by itself. Convoy complete, a voice said quietly. Holding formation. Then, after a long pause, your turn to lead. I first noticed it on my 3rd run through the Eisenhower stretch, the kind of long, dark drive where the world feels half asleep, and the only sound is the hum of tires on asphalt. The snow had just started again. Thin flurries sweeping sideways in the beams of my headlights. Midnight. Empty road. Then, I passed mile marker 178. Nothing unusual about it at first. Just a bent green post half buried in snow. Numbers barely visible under grime. But right as I passed it, my radio hissed. One sharp crack of static and my headlights flickered. Half a second later, everything went dark. The cab lights, the dash. Even the engine, all dead. The truck coasted silently in the dark. The only sound my breath fogging up the glass. Then, just as suddenly, everything came back on. I slammed the brakes, heart pounding. The dashboard clock blinked 12 o'clock, like it had reset. I sat there for a full minute, staring at the frozen road ahead, trying to make sense of it. Then my CB clicked. A soft voice. Female. Low, barely a whisper. "Don't stop at the marker." I grabbed the mic. "Say again?" But the line was dead. I told myself it was interference, mountain weather messing with frequencies. Happens all the time up here. Still, I couldn't shake the chill that came with that voice. The way she sounded. It wasn't like she was talking to me. It was like she was remembering something out loud. I kept rolling, trying not to look at the mirrors, but about 20 minutes later, I caught something odd in the reflection, a light behind me. Small, faint, like a single headlamp weaving through the storm. At first, I thought it was another truck catching up. I slowed a little, expecting to see it pull closer, but it didn't. It stayed exactly the same distance behind me when I sped up. It did too. When I slowed down, it matched me perfectly. That single quotes S when the CB hissed again. This time it wasn't a voice. It was a sound. Like someone breathing, deep and slow, right into the mic. "Who is this?" I said. No response. Then a faint knock echoed from the back of the cab. Once, twice. Then silence. By the time I hit the next rest area, I was shaking so bad I could barely grab the gear shift. I pulled in hard, tires crunching over packed snow. The lot was empty. I left the truck idling and stepped outside. The cold hit me like a slap, instantly biting through my jacket. The night was completely still. No wind, no movement, nothing. I circled the rig with my flashlight, beam cutting through the snow. The trailer was clean. No dents, no signs anyone had been near it. But when I reached the back, I saw something carved into the frost on the door. 4 numbers. 178. I stumbled back, scanning the darkness, but there was no one. Just that same soft wind and the hum of my idling engine. I wiped the numbers away with my glove and climbed back inside. As soon as the door shut, the CB lit up again. No static, no crackle. Just that same whispering voice. "You saw it, didn't you?" I froze. "Who are you?" I asked. A pause. "Then, I told you not to stop." For the next hour, I drove without thinking, hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles hurt. I couldn't tell if the voice was real anymore, if any of it was. Then, through the haze of snow, I saw the glow of another truck ahead. I eased closer until I could make out the shape, a white Kenworth, older model, hauling a flatbed. No markings. I flashed my brights, hoping to get his attention. The driver responded with a quick blink of taillights. Relief washed over me. Maybe I could convoy through this storm and forget the weirdness. But when I looked closer, I noticed something off. The truck's license plate was covered with frost, except for one clean spot. 4 digits scraped into the ice. 0178. My stomach flipped. The CB crackled again. This time, it wasn't a whisper. It was a voice I recognized. My own. "Keep following," it said. I yanked the mic out of the socket and threw it on the floor. The voice kept talking. "Almost there. Don't stop this time." I slammed my fist against the dash, shouting at no one, at the static, at whatever had crawled into my truck. Then, through the noise, I heard another sound, faint, rhythmic, a ticking. I looked at the dashboard clock. Still blinking, 12 o'clock. The ticking wasn't coming from the clock, it was coming from the sleeper behind me. I turned, flashlight shaking in my hand, and pulled the curtain aside. Empty. But the ticking was louder now, coming from under the mattress. I lifted the corner and froze. There was a CB mic there. An old one, dusty and cracked, the wire frayed and tangled. It shouldn't have been there. I'd never seen it before. The light on the handle was glowing faint. Red. Tick, tick, Then a voice came through it, a man this time. Voice gravelly, half gone with static. "You took my route." I dropped the mic and stumbled out of the bunk, slamming my head on the ceiling. My breath came in fast, shallow gasps. When I looked up, my windshield had fogged completely over. Words written in the condensation from the inside. Mile 178, turn back. I tried. I swear I did. But when I pulled onto the highway again, something was wrong with the road. The signs looked warped in the snow, the lane markers curving where they shouldn't. Then I saw it again, the green post, half buried in snow. Mile marker 178. I hadn't turned around. I'd been driving in a loop. The voice came through again, both of them now. The woman's whisper and that deep, broken man's growl, overlapping in static. "Don't stop. Pull over. Keep going. Come back." The lights flickered. The gauges on my dash began to spin wildly. Fuel, temp, RPMs. The truck shuddered. Like something had grabbed the trailer and was dragging it backward. Through the mirrors, I saw the road behind me start to move. Not like a normal drift of snow, like the ground itself was sliding. Shifting beneath the wheels, and through that shifting white, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. Tall, still, wearing a trucker's jacket, caked in frost. He raised one arm and pointed directly at me. I hit the horn, screaming into the night, and the lights in the cab died again. The engine coughed, then went silent. When it came back on, the figure was gone. But now there was a second truck parked in front of me, identical to mine. Same color, same decals, same license plate. Its engine was idling. And through the windshield, I could see a man sitting in the driver's seat. He looked exactly like me. He turned his head slowly toward me, eyes catching the glare of my high beams. Then the radio clicked back to life. My voice again, almost there. For a full minute, I couldn't move. I just sat there gripping the wheel, staring at that other truck, my truck, idling 20 feet ahead. The exhaust poured white into the air, curling like smoke from a slow fire. The driver inside, the other me, didn't move. He just stared straight forward, hands locked at 10 and 2. When I finally worked up the nerve, I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. The cold was sharper now, biting against my face hard enough to sting. The snow wasn't falling anymore. It just hung there in the air, suspended. Everything was silent. Not quiet, silent. No wind, no engine, hum, nothing. I walked toward the second truck, boots crunching over the frost. Each step I took, I half expected it to vanish like a mirage. But it didn't. It was solid, real. Even the mud on the tires matched mine exactly. I climbed up the side rail and looked through the driver's window. He looked wrong. Same jacket, same cap, same stubble. But his skin had that gray, waxy color, like a mannequin that had been left out in the cold too long, and his eyes, frozen open, fogged over like the glass. When I shone the flashlight directly at his face, his lips twitched. He whispered something I couldn't hear. Then the radio in my truck came on again. "You shouldn't have stopped," my own voice said. Softer this time, almost regretful. I ran back to my cab, jumped in, and slammed the door shut. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grab the mic. "Who the hell is this?" I shouted into it. "What do you want from me?" Static answered. Then a sound, faint, rhythmic, like chains rattling in the wind. And then, under it, I heard breathing. Slow, right behind me. I spun around. But the sleeper was empty. The curtain, though, it was moving. Like someone had just brushed against it. I pulled it back. Heart hammering. The mattress was soaked through with melted frost, dripping onto the floor. The CB crackled again. Mile marker 178. The voice said, not mine this time, not hers either. This one was low, rough, gravelly. "It keeps us." The words hit like a punch. "Keeps us." I jammed the truck into gear, pedal down hard. The wheels spun, throwing up snow. But the truck didn't move. It was like something heavy was chained to the back of it. The trailer groaned under the strain, metal squealing. The mirrors trembled. Then, with a violent jolt, it broke free. The truck lurched forward. The radio screamed with static so loud it filled the cab. And in that static layered deep, I heard dozens of voices. Men and women. Crying, whispering, yelling over one another. Help us. Don't stop. Turn around. Stay. My headlights flashed once, twice, then went completely dark when they came back on. The second truck was gone. So was the marker. No snow. No wind. Just open road stretching forever ahead, lit by a pale glow that didn't look like sunrise or moonlight. I looked down at my dashboard. The clock still blinked 12 o'clock. Odometer. Every gauge was dead. The CB, though, was lit, red light glowing steady. Keep driving, my voice said again. You're almost there. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed the mic and screamed into it. I am there. I'm done. Let me out. The red light flickered once. Then the voice whispered, you never made it out. I don't remember pulling over. Maybe I blacked out. Maybe I drifted. When I came to, the truck was parked at the side of the road. It was morning. Gray light filtered through the windshield. For a second, I thought it was finally over. But when I stepped outside, I froze because the green post was standing right in front of me. Mile marker 178. And next to it, half buried in snow, was another truck. Wrecked. Rusted through. Cab caved in. The logo on the door was mine. Same company, same unit number. I climbed the embankment, boots slipping on ice. The wreck looked decades old, eaten away by rust and cold. Inside, behind a shattered windshield, was a frozen corpse, the driver still seatbelted in. The face was almost gone. Skin shriveled tight around bone. But the jacket, it was mine. I stumbled back, falling to my knees in the snow. My breath came in short bursts that fogged and vanished instantly. I reached for my phone, but there was no signal. No battery either, dead black screen. I turned toward the highway, ready to start walking, but the road behind me was gone. Just white. No tracks. No tire marks. Nothing. And in that silence, I heard the faint hum of an engine starting up. I turned. The wrecked truck's headlights glowed dim yellow. The dash lights flickered. The CB inside came to life. Static. Then my own voice. Keep driving. The sound built into a low, mechanical growl. The kind of deep rumble you feel in your chest. I backed away, but the snow behind me had turned solid, slick and hard, like ice polished to glass. My boots slipped. The engine in the wreck roared, coughing thick black smoke into the air. The headlights burned brighter. Something moved in the driver's seat, not the corpse this time. It was me. Alive, breathing, eyes open. He turned his head toward me and smiled. And the voice came again. My voice. The same tone, the same inflection. But it didn't come from the CB this time. It came from inside my skull. You never left 178. I ran. I don't remember how far or in what direction. Just running through the snow, slipping, falling, getting back up. The landscape didn't change, endless white. No sound but my own breath, every few minutes. I'd glance back, and no matter how far I went, the green post was still there behind me. And I swear, I could see the wreck creeping closer each time I looked, like it was sliding toward me. Like the world was bending around it. At some point, I found a road sign, bent, half buried in the drift. I wiped the frost off. It said, mile marker 178, eastbound. I was back. Or maybe I'd never left. The snow started again, heavier now, through the flurries. Headlights appeared in the distance, a truck coming my way. I waved my arms, shouting, desperate for someone. Anyone real? The truck slowed, tires squealing. The driver leaned out. He looked tired, older, gray-bearded. "You all right, buddy?" "You look frozen to hell." I nodded, breath shaking. "My rig, it's back up the road. Please, I just need to call someone." But before I could finish, I glanced at the green post beside him. The number on it read 178, and his CB hissed. A woman's voice came through. "Don't stop at the marker." He looked at the radio, confused. "You hear that?" But I couldn't speak. My throat had gone dry, because as his headlights hit my face, I saw my reflection in the window. It wasn't me anymore. It was him. The same gray-bearded driver. Eyes wide, frozen in place. The world flickered, light and dark. Light and dark, like someone was flipping a switch. Each time it blinked, the scene shifted. My wreck in the snow. The other truck. The green marker, over and over, looping endlessly. The last thing I remember clearly is the man, the other me, shouting through the snowstorm, "What is this?" And I heard my voice answer him, "Mile marker 178. Then everything went white. When I opened my eyes again, I was sitting behind the wheel. Truck running. Road clear. The sun low over the ridge. I could hear faint chatter on the CB, regular drivers. Real voices, normal. For a while, I thought it had all been a dream. I started driving, slow, steady, watching the mile markers count down. Then, just as I passed 178, my dashboard clock blinked 12 o'clock, and the radio whispered, so soft I almost missed it, "Don't stop." The first thing I remember was the lights dying. 1 second, the Eisenhower Tunnel was glowing bright and golden, concrete walls flashing by under the steady hum of my engine, and the next, everything went pitch black. No headlights. No dashboard. Nothing. Just the sound of tires against slick pavement echoing in a tunnel that suddenly felt too long. I let off the gas, trying to stay centered. I'd been through Eisenhower 100 times before. Knew every curve, every light fixture, every emergency pullout. But without the lights, the place didn't feel like a tunnel anymore. It felt like a throat. I flipped the switch. For my brights, dead. Tried the radio. Nothing. Even the CB silent. No static, no hiss. That's when I saw the other truck. Headlights flared in my rear view for half a second. A pair of old yellow halogens cutting through the dark, then vanished. I blinked, thinking I'd imagined it. But a few seconds later, I heard it. The low, steady growl of another engine echoing behind me. The sound was wrong though, off rhythm, too slow. Like whoever was back there was dragging something heavy across the lane. Tapped my brakes twice, the trucker's way of saying, "Hey, I see you. Back off a bit." But the noise only got louder. Closer. Then the lights came back on, and there was no one behind me. For a while, I thought it had just been a weird electrical glitch. The tunnel's old. Stuff happens. But when I checked the time on my dash, my stomach twisted. I'd gone through the entrance at 2:14 a.m. The clock now read 3:42. The Eisenhower Tunnel's not even 2 miles long. There was no way I'd been in there for more than an hour. The radio stayed dead the whole way out. When I finally rolled into the turnout at Silverthorne, I saw another trucker standing outside his rig, smoking in the snow. His face was pale and drawn, eyes sunken like he hadn't slept. I parked next to him and climbed out. "Lights go out on you too?" I asked. He looked at me slow, then took a drag off his cigarette. "You were in there?" "Yeah," I said. Blackout hit just after the midpoint. He dropped the cigarette into the snow. Then who the hell was behind me? We sat in the diner off exit 205 until sunrise, just talking, trying to make sense of it. He said his name was Travis, out of Missouri. He'd hit the tunnel just before me, and halfway through, he'd seen another rig pull up on his bumper, red Peterbilt. No markings, old model, said the lights behind him kept flickering. Then everything went dark when the lights came back on. The Peterbilt was gone. He figured it was a blackout too. Until he noticed something else. His clock had jumped forward 3 hours. We compared notes. Same time gap. Same blackout, same tunnel. Maybe it's a power surge, I offered weakly. Though even saying it out loud didn't sound right. He shook his head. Nah, that place. It's got stories. What kind of stories? He stared out the diner window at the snowy pass beyond the highway. Couple years back, a red Peterbilt jackknifed in there. Driver never made it out. They found the rig, but not him. Tunnel was closed for hours. I should have just taken that as superstition and moved on. But that night, when I started my return run through the pass, the air already felt wrong. Heavy. Like the tunnel was waiting. As soon as I entered, the reception on the CB cut out. The light flickered twice, then died. I gritted my teeth and kept going. Headlights cutting through the yellow glow of the tunnel lights. Halfway through, I caught something out of the corner of my eye. Movement. In one of the emergency walkways behind the railing. Something shifted. A shadow that didn't belong to me or the truck. It looked like a person. I slowed down. That's when my engine stuttered once. Just a hiccup. And the entire tunnel went black again. I coasted to a stop. Heart hammering. The silence was thick. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Then, in the dark, someone knocked on my door. 3 slow taps. Hello? I said, voice shaking. You okay out there? No answer. Another 3 taps, softer this time. Like fingertips against glass. I reached for my flashlight and cracked the window. Just enough to shine it outside. Nothing. Just the curved tunnel wall. Dripping with condensation. But the moment I turned back, I froze. Because now there were handprints on the inside of my eye. Froze. Windshield, smudged, wet. And not mine. The lights flickered back on. The handprints were gone. I hit the gas hard. Not caring about the speed limit or the cameras. I just wanted out. The end of the tunnel came into view. A small white glow that grew bigger with every second. But as I got closer, I realized something was off. The glow wasn't daylight. It was headlights. A red Peterbilt was parked sideways at the exit, blocking the way. Its cab door hung open, flapping slightly from the air pressure of the tunnel. And sitting in the driver's seat, or what was left of it, was a skeleton, still wearing a trucker's jacket. The CB mic hung from its hand. As I stared, the radio in my cab crackled to life. A voice came through, low and distorted, like it was coming from underwater. Don't stop. Don't. The rest was swallowed in static. I swerved, scraping the tunnel wall. Metal screaming against concrete. By the time I reached the end, the Peterbilt was gone. Outside, the sky was clear and calm, stars sharp against the black. My truck's clock now read 5:08 a.m. I'd left Silverthorne around midnight. 5 hours. Gone. I pulled into the nearest lot and killed the engine. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The radio was still on, faint static hissing like distant breathing. And underneath it, I heard the same voice again, quieter this time. Stay in the light. I didn't go through the tunnel again for weeks after that. I'd take the long route, over Loveland Pass, no matter the weather. The extra hour of snow and switchbacks was better than that. Suffocating dark. But every driver knows the day comes when you can't avoid it. A deadline, a rush job, a client breathing down your neck. Mine came on the last night of January. The dispatcher called just before midnight. Denver load. Light haul, needed in Dillon before dawn. Only one way to make it. Eisenhower. By the time I hit the tunnel entrance again, the snow had started up heavy. Big flakes smearing across the windshield. Wipers thumping a slow rhythm. I flicked the CB on out of habit. Static. Then faintly, keep your lights on. My throat tightened. Who is this? No answer, just that endless hiss. Then the tunnel swallowed me whole again. The first 100 yards were normal. Light yellow tunnel lamps, white walls, the faint echo of my own tires, but every mile of that stretch felt wrong. The air didn't just feel cold, it felt hollow, like there was nothing beyond the glow of my headlights. Then, just past the midpoint, my dash lights dimmed again. "Not this time," I muttered, gripping the wheel tight. "Not again." But the CB crackled to life before the blackout even hit. "Stay in the light," the voice said. Then everything went dark. No lights. No engine hum. Nothing but the sound of my breathing and the faint squeal of tires still spinning. I flicked the flashlight on, but it barely reached past the windshield. The tunnel walls swallowed the beam like smoke. Then I saw it, the same red glow I'd seen before, far up ahead. 2 faint taillights hovering midair, the red Peterbilt, but this time it wasn't blocking the exit. It was waiting. Idling. The low growl of its engine rolled through the tunnel in waves, steady and endless. I pressed the pedal. Nothing. My truck wasn't moving. It was like my wheels had fused to the road. Then, from behind me, another set of headlights flicked on. 2 white beams, blinding bright, filling the cab with glare. For a moment, I thought maybe it was another driver caught in the blackout too. Maybe we could both get out. Then the horn blared, long, low, deafening. It didn't sound mechanical, it sounded alive. The tunnel started to vibrate. Concrete walls groaning like something massive was pressing against. Then my mirrors shook so hard they blurred. "Stay in the light," the voice said again, right next to my ear this time. I turned my flashlight toward the passenger seat. Empty. But the seatbelt was buckled tight. And it was pulling itself tighter, like someone invisible was strapping in. The temperature in the cab dropped so fast I could see my breath turn to ice. The red Peterbilt ahead started rolling forward slowly, taillights pulsing brighter and brighter, like a heartbeat. Then my own truck lurched, not because I hit the gas, but because it pulled itself into gear. We started moving. It felt like being towed through darkness. The red taillights ahead stayed perfectly centered. No matter how I turned the wheel, the CB came back on. The static so loud it rattled the dash. Through it, I heard fragments of voices, overlapping, fading in and out. "Don't stop." "Lost the radio." "Can't see." Dozens of them, all layered over each other, all echoing through the same endless tunnel. And beneath them, quieter, but clear, a single woman's voice. "Follow the light." I didn't know what else to do. I kept driving. I don't know how long it went on, minutes, hours, days. Time didn't exist in that tunnel anymore. My dashboard clock still blinked 12 o'clock. The red truck ahead never changed distance. Always just far enough that I could see its lights, but not its shape. Then, slowly, the glow ahead began to fade, the lights dimmed, and I realized it wasn't because of distance. It was because they were turning off, one by one. The tunnel lamps around me died again. The hum of electricity stopped completely. Only 2 red lights remained, the Peterbilt's taillights, floating in a sea of black until they flickered once, then vanished too, and the silence hit, complete. Suffocating silence. I slammed the brakes. The truck slid to a stop, tires screeching against the tunnel floor. The darkness was absolute. I fumbled for the door handle, thinking I could just run, but the handle wouldn't budge. The metal felt warm now, almost pulsing beneath my hand. Then I heard something moving outside. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Bare against concrete. They stopped right outside my door, and a voice whispered, not through the CB this time. Not inside my head, right next to me. "Open up." I froze. "Open the door, Eli." My blood ran cold. No one should have known my name. I stared straight ahead, too afraid to even breathe. Then a single hand pressed against the glass. Gray skin. Long fingers. Nails dark with oil. The palm dragged slowly down the window, leaving behind a streak that froze into frost. I shut my eyes, whispering to myself, "It's not real, it's not real." "It's not," then the voice said, "You've already been through." The engine roared back to life on its own. Headlights burst on so bright, it blinded me. When my vision cleared, the tunnel wasn't empty anymore. Dozens of trucks lined the lanes, all different makes and models, all covered in frost and dust. Some had lights flickering faintly. Others sat still and silent. All of them were facing the same direction, toward the exit. And at the very front of the line, the red Peterbilt idled, exhaust puffing steady clouds of white. Its cab door was open now, waiting. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was fear, or exhaustion, or that sick pull that comes when you realize the only way out is through. I stepped down from my rig. The air inside the tunnel was heavy, wet, full of that smell. Oil, rubber, something burnt. The sound of engines filled the space, layered, like every truck was idling at once. I walked toward the Peterbilt. Every few steps, the lights around me flickered, not tunnel lights, but flashes from the other trucks, headlights sputtering in unison. When I reached the red rig, I grabbed the door handle. It was cold as ice. Inside, the seat was empty, but the CB mic dangled from the dashboard, its red light glowing faint. I lifted it. "Hello?" Static. Then a voice, calm, almost relieved. "You finally made it." My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, "Same as you." Didn't stay in the light. I dropped the mic. It swung on its cord, clacking against the dash. In the glow of the headlights, I noticed something else. Carved into the dashboard with a knife, the words, "Stay in the light." Behind me, one by one, the other trucks started to rev. Their engines roared in perfect rhythm, shaking the tunnel walls. I turned to run back, but my rig wasn't where I left it. The space was empty, and then I saw movement in the driver's seat of the red Peterbilt. Someone sitting there now, wearing my jacket. Hands on the wheel, the CB lit again. My own voice coming through this time, "Stay in the light." Then the truck surged forward, tires screaming, barreling straight into the dark ahead. I woke up at dawn on the shoulder outside Silverthorne, engine idling, headlights on. No sign of the tunnel behind me, just clear sky and snow. My clock read 5:12 a.m. I checked my logbook. No entry since 12 o'clock. 5 hours gone again. When I stepped out, there were fresh tire tracks leading away from my rig, but not from me. They came from the opposite direction, running out of the tunnel, straight past where I'd parked. And there, scrawled in frost across my passenger door, were 3 words, "Stay in light." No, just that. Like someone, or something, was trying to remember English. Later that day, I tried to tell another driver what happened. Old guy at the gas station, gray beard, heavy eyes. He listened, then said quietly, "You're the 3rd one this month." I frowned. What's that supposed to mean? He nodded toward the tunnel on the horizon. Every few weeks they find a truck sitting inside after a blackout, empty, engine still running. Log clock reset to midnight. Drivers? I asked. He looked away. Never found. That night, back in my cab, I couldn't sleep. Every sound made me jump. The tick of cooling metal, the creak of snow shifting off the roof. I turned on the CB, half expecting silence. Instead, faintly through the static, came the hum of engines. Then my own voice. "You made it out." I stared at the mic for a long time, heart pounding. Then I whispered, "Is it over?" A pause, then, "Stay in the light." The CB clicked off. And outside my window, for just a second, the reflection of red taillights glowed in the snow, then vanished. I knew something was wrong the second I saw the trailer. It was spotless, too spotless. The rest of the yard was a graveyard of mud, rust, and snow-caked rigs. But that one trailer sat perfectly clean under the security lights, white sides gleaming like polished bone. No logo. No company tag. Just a number stenciled on the back, 606. Dispatch told me it was a short haul to Grand Junction. Night run, sealed freight, cash bonus. All I had to do was pick it up, sign, and drive. Easy money. But when I backed my rig into the hitch and climbed out to check the latch, I noticed the air felt wrong. The snow had stopped falling. No wind, no sound. Not even the usual hum from the yard lights. Just silence. And when I put my hand on the trailer side, it was warm. Not from the engine. Not from the sun. Warm, like skin. The paperwork was simple, just a one-page manifest with 3 lines. Pickup, Denver. CO drop, Grand Junction. CO contents, do not open. That's it. No company name. No contact number. The signature box at the bottom already had a name scrawled in shaky pen. Harlan. I didn't know any Harlan. Dispatch didn't either. They just said, "Load's legit. Don't ask questions." So I didn't. But halfway through the mountains, I started to wish I had. It was around midnight when I hit the incline past Silver Plume. Snow was light, traffic almost zero. I had the radio on low, coffee half gone. Trying to fight the stretch of dark highway that always made me feel like I was driving through space. Then I felt it. Shift in the weight. Every driver knows the feel of their trailer, the rhythm, the drag, how it handles on curves. But that night, something changed. The trailer suddenly felt heavier. Not just loaded, sinking. I checked my mirrors. Nothing looked different. But the rear tires seemed lower, like the whole back end was being pulled down. Then, through the mirror, I saw movement. Something shifted inside the trailer. I caught it in the reflection, just a subtle ripple against the wall. Like something pressed outward from inside. Once. Then again. I gripped the wheel tighter, trying to convince myself it was the road. The wind, whatever. But when I looked again, the metal was still flexing, like something alive was moving just beneath it. I grabbed the CB. Dispatch. This is Unit 18. You sure this trailer's sealed? Static. Then a voice I didn't recognize came through. Not my dispatcher. Keep driving. I froze. Who is this? Silence. Then again, slower. Keep driving. I looked at the radio, then down at the manifest. The name at the bottom, Harlan, looked fresher now. Like the ink hadn't been dry after all. A drop of moisture had spread the letters, making them bleed. 10 minutes later, the smell started. Not strong at first, just faint metal, like rust or old blood. But the farther I went, the thicker it got. Then the thumping started, soft, dull, like someone knocking from inside the trailer. Thud. 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 I pulled onto a turnout, hands shaking. The second I stopped, the thumping stopped too. Snow drifted lazily under the headlights. Air still dead quiet. I stepped out, boots crunching against the ice, and walked around to the back. The trailer doors were sealed with a heavy lock-thick chain, brand new. I put my hand on it. Still warm. Then I heard it again, from inside, a voice, muffled, weak. Help. I stumbled back so fast I nearly slipped. Another voice joined it. Then another. All whispering at once. Help us. Let us out. It's so cold. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I backed away to the cab, ready to leave the trailer behind and call it in. But when I climbed back inside, the truck wasn't idling anymore. The key was still in the ignition. But the dashboard lights were off. And the CB, the same one that had gone dead earlier, crackled to life again. Driver. The voice said, calm and hollow. Do not stop. The lock on the back clanged once. Then again, louder. Whatever was inside was hitting it now, harder. Faster. I threw the rig into gear and tore out of that turnout, snow spraying behind me. As I drove. The sound didn't fade. It followed. The pounding kept time with the wheels, Thud. Thud. Like something inside was trying to keep pace with the road. Then I saw lights ahead, a way station. Dim and half buried in snow. I figured maybe I could find someone there. A trooper, anyone. But when I pulled in, the place was empty. No trucks. No cars. Just the floodlights humming over a small building with dark windows and a single rig parked on the far side of the lot. Old red Peterbilt. Cab door open. The second I saw it, every hair on my neck stood up. I'd heard enough stories from the other drivers about the ghost rigs that appeared on the passes. Running dark, no driver, no tags. Some said they were wrecks that never stopped. Rolling, some said they were drivers who took the wrong haul and never made the drop. I never believed any of it until then. The pounding inside my trailer stopped. The silence that followed was worse. I climbed down, flashlight in hand, snow biting my face. My breath came out in clouds, sharp and fast. The red rig sat perfectly still, headlights off. Snow piled thick across its hood. And then I noticed something written on the side of my trailer, words scrawled in condensation. Faint and trembling, "Don't open it." I backed away fast, stumbling through the snow. But when I turned toward my cab, the driver's door was open, and the CB was on again. The voice said, "Almost there." Then the trailer shifted, once, hard enough to rock the whole rig. And from inside came a sound that wasn't a knock anymore. It was breathing. I slammed the door shut, threw the truck into gear, and gunned it out of the way station. The snow whipped across my windshield, headlights cutting thin tunnels of white. The breathing sound from the trailer hadn't stopped. It wasn't just one set of lungs anymore, it was many. Slow, ragged, uneven breaths, in and out, every mile. They got louder. I kept the radio off, windows up, trying to drown it out with the sound of the engine. Didn't help. It felt like the noise was coming from inside the cab. I pulled the manifest out again, hoping for something, a number, a note, a clue. But there was only that single word under contents. "Do not open." My fingers brushed the signature. The ink was still damp. And when I lifted my hand away, my fingerprint was gone, like the paper had absorbed it. By the time I reached Glenwood Canyon, my nerves were shot. Snow was falling again, thick and slow. The headlights carved narrow cones into the dark, every flake a tiny spark in the beam. The voices started around the first tunnel. At first, I thought it was the CB again. But the radio was off. "Driver, please, let us out." Whispers from the back of the cab. From behind the seat, I yanked the wheel a little too hard. The tires skidded, trailer fishtailing before it caught traction again. When I checked the mirrors, something moved behind the frost-covered glass. Not shapes, faces, dozens of them. Pressed against the inside wall of the trailer. Mouths open like they were screaming, only no sound came out. I blinked, and they were gone. The smell got worse. Metal, rot, something sour underneath. I rolled down the window for air, and that's when I heard the horn, long and deep. Not behind me. Ahead. Through the haze of snow, I saw headlights, a rig coming from the other direction, no more than 100 feet away. Except it wasn't moving. It was parked sideways across the road, blocking both lanes. I hit the brakes, but the load was too heavy. The back end started sliding, the trailer pushing against me. I screamed as I fought the wheel. The red rig's shape growing larger, and then it vanished, just gone. The snow cleared. The road was empty, but the smell inside the cab was worse now, thick, choking, like diesel and something dead. I pulled into the next turnout and killed the engine. I couldn't keep driving blind. I grabbed the flashlight and climbed down, snow biting into my neck as I stumbled toward the back. The lock was still on the trailer, but now it was coated in frost, and beneath it, the chain was moving, just slightly, rattling, like someone was tugging from the inside, Pressed my ear against the metal. Whispers. So many whispers, I couldn't separate them. All breath and words, tangled together. And one voice louder than the rest, low, steady, close to the door. Don't deliver us. I jumped back, heart slamming against my ribs. Who are you? I shouted. Silence. Then. You picked us up. The metal shifted. A hollow boom rolled through the frame. We didn't belong to you. I wanted to run, to leave the trailer on the mountain and never look back. But something held me there. Maybe fear, maybe the sick need to know. I pulled my phone out to call dispatch. No signal. When I turned the flashlight back toward the trailer, the number on the back, 606, was gone. In its place, faintly visible under the frost, were new letters forming. 601. My stomach dropped. Every driver in Colorado knows that number. Load 601. The missing truck from last winter. Driver vanished somewhere between Vale and Rifle. They found the rig months later. Still running, cab empty, trailer sealed. Manifest read, contents, do not open. I stared at those three numbers, every breath fogging the air. Then the CB crackled inside the cab again. Driver. The voice said, calm, slow, mechanical. You are late. I looked toward the cab. The interior lights were on now, though I'd killed the power. In the glow, I saw movement in the passenger seat. Someone sitting there, wearing a driver's cap. Face turned toward me. He smiled. And then the radio spoke again, this time in his voice. You picked up my load. I bolted. Snow flying beneath my boots. I dove into the cab and slammed the door. The passenger seat was empty, but the air was heavy, thick with that smell. The dashboard lights flickered once, twice, then all the gauges pegged to 0. I jammed the key forward. The engine turned over with a groan, then roared to life. As soon as it did, the voices from the trailer started again. Screaming this time, let us out. Turn back. Don't deliver it. I floored it. The snow blurred past, the mountain curves pulling tight. The farther I drove, the louder the screaming got, until it became one long, unbroken wail. Then, suddenly, silence. The dashboard clock blinked 3 a.m. The road leveled out and ahead of me. Through the curtain of snow, I saw a single figure standing in the lane. A man, tall in a trucker's jacket, face shadowed beneath a cap. I laid on the horn. Didn't slow down, but as the headlights hit him, he didn't move. He raised his hand, palm out, the same way drivers signal for a stop on the road, and mouthed a single word. No. The cab lights flickered. For half a second, the windshield filled with static. And then, the trailer detached. The jolt threw me forward against the wheel. I looked back just in time to see the white box vanish into the snow, swallowed whole. The road behind me was empty. I stopped in the middle of the highway, chest heaving. The smell was gone. The whispers too. Only the faint hum of the engine and the wind through the pass. By dawn, I'd made it to Grand Junction. The yard there was empty, except for a single white trailer parked against the fence. Clean, perfect, numbered 606. When I stepped out, my boots sank into a thin layer of frost that hadn't melted. Even under the morning sun, the yard manager came out with a clipboard. Squinting at me, "You're the driver from Denver?" I nodded weakly. He pointed at the trailer. "We already got your load." I turned toward the white rig, throat tight. "That's not mine." He frowned. "It's got your manifest." He handed me the paper. Same route, same signature. Only this time, the name at the bottom wasn't Harlan. It was Eli. That night, I parked my rig behind a rest stop and tried to sleep. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the chain rattling. At one point, just before dawn, I looked in my side mirror, and there it was, a white trailer, sitting at the edge of the lot, no truck attached. No snow on it. Perfectly clean. And printed on the back, in tall black numbers, 6:07. My turn to haul. The night I jackknifed on Monarch Pass, I should have died. Every time I replay it, that's the part that gets me. How slow it all felt. How quiet. 1 second, I was cruising downhill with a half-full load of construction rebar. The next, the trailer swung sideways, dragging the cab with it like a hooked fish. I remember the snow, those fine, dry flakes that make the road look wet instead of iced. I remember the weight shift, the steering wheel fighting me. But mostly, I remember what came after, because when I woke up, I wasn't on the road anymore. It was pitch black. No headlights, no sound, no smell of diesel. Just my own breath, shallow and panicked, and the faint tick of cooling metal. My seatbelt was still buckled. The cab tilted slightly to the right, nose down. Through the windshield, I saw faint snow drifting sideways in the beam of a light that wasn't mine. At first, I thought maybe it was a tow or a patrol. But the longer I watched, the stranger it looked. The beam didn't move like headlights. It hovered, pale, yellowish, and cut through the snow like it was underwater. I tried the ignition. Dead. The CB was dark too, though a faint crackle of static hissed from the speaker like breathing. When I finally unbuckled and reached for the door, the handle was ice cold. It wouldn't budge at first, but I shoved harder until it popped. The cold hit me like a slap. I stumbled out into a blizzard. Wind slicing my face, snow blinding, air so thin it burned my lungs. The truck had slid halfway off the shoulder, trailer twisted at an angle. A deep groove cut through the snow behind it. Like a scar leading up the hill, I waved toward the light through the whiteout, trying to shout, but the sound died in the wind. The beam flickered once, then disappeared completely. I started walking toward where it had been. The snow was knee-deep, the wind so loud I couldn't hear my own boots crunching. Then I noticed something strange. No tire tracks. My own rig had slid off the road. But there weren't any marks leading to it. Just one long scrape, like it had been dragged here. Halfway up the slope, I found the first body. A driver, frozen solid, still in his seatbelt. His rig was crumpled against the guardrail, the logo on the side half buried under snow. The windshield was gone, blown out from the inside, and his eyes were wide open. Frost crystals had formed over them, giving them this milky, glassy look. I stepped back, heart hammering. The truck was still humming faintly, the sound of an engine idling, somewhere deep inside the ice. Except when I looked under the hood, there was no engine. Just black, frozen metal and a thick layer of frost that smelled like burnt oil. That's when the CB in my cab came on. A voice, faint, static-laced, said, "Don't move." I turned back toward my truck. The door was still open, cab light glowing in the dark. The voice came again, clearer this time. "Stay in the cab, driver." I ran. Half fell, half slid down the hill until I slammed into the side of my rig. I yanked myself inside, slammed the door, and locked it. The light inside flickered, then steadied. The CB hissed again. "Good," the voice said. "You're still alive." I grabbed the mic. "Who the hell is this?" A pause. Then, "You jackknifed, didn't you?" The way they said it, flat, certain, made my stomach twist. "Yeah," I said. I lost traction. "Where are you?" "Behind you." I froze. Turned slowly toward the side mirror. Nothing but snow. Then, I realized something. The person on the radio was breathing in perfect sync with me. Every inhale, every exhale. The headlights flickered on for a split second. And there, just past the beam's edge, stood another driver. He was maybe 20 feet away, wearing a high-waist jacket, face half hidden by a snow mask. At first, I felt relief. Someone was there. But then I noticed something wrong with how he was standing. His body wasn't swaying in the wind like mine. He was perfectly still, and when he raised his hand to wave, his fingers bent the wrong way. The CB crackled again. "Don't open the door." But I'd already moved. Some part of me, the stupid human part that still believes in help, reached for the handle anyway. As soon as I touched it, the cab light went out, pitch black, and in the dark, something cold brushed my face. I flailed, hit the horn, shouted, but the sound came out strangled. My lungs wouldn't work right. It felt like the air had turned to water. Then I heard the voice again, not from the radio this time. Right next to my ear. "You should have stayed still." The windshield frosted over instantly, from the inside out, until I couldn't see a thing. When I tried to wipe it away, the frost didn't move. It was inside the glass, and underneath it, faint shapes began to form, handprints, smeared against the surface from the outside. Dozens of them, all facing inward. I must have passed out, because when I opened my eyes it was morning. The cab was filled with sunlight. The storm had stopped. The windshield was clean, no frost, no handprints. For a second, I thought I'd imagined the whole thing, until I stepped out. The other trucks were gone. Every one of them, just long, empty scars in the snow where they'd been, and halfway down the slope, right where I'd seen the first frozen driver. There was only a patch of black ice, slick, glassy, and burned at the edges like something had melted through it. I called highway patrol from the first rest stop I found. They said they hadn't had any calls all night, no wrecks reported, no other drivers in distress. But when I got back to my company yard later that day, the safety officer called me in. He showed me a photo on his computer, a black and white still from a highway camera near the pass. "Is that you?" he asked. I leaned closer. My truck, clear as day, headlights cutting through the snow. Trailer angled sideways, the jackknife frozen, mid-swing. Only there was something else behind it, a second truck, or what looked like one. No plates, no markings, just two faint headlights buried in fog. "Did anyone else stop to help you?" he asked. I shook my head. He frowned, zoomed in. "Then what the hell is that?" I didn't drive for a week after that. Every time I tried to sleep, I'd wake up freezing, gasping, hearing that voice whisper, "Stay still in the dark." Then one morning, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside was a single photograph, an old Polaroid, yellowed and curled at the edges. It showed a jackknife truck, crushed against a guardrail. Snow everywhere. Written on the back, in faded ink, Monarch Pass, February 12, 1998. Driver, Harlan Voss. Body not recovered. I looked it up. The wreck was real. Harlan had been hauling rebar through the pass during a blizzard, lost control, went over the edge. They found the trailer months later. Cab was empty. His CB mic was frozen in place, stuck in transmit. A few nights later I decided to face it. I got back behind the wheel and took a short route, no mountain passes, no snow. Just to feel normal again. But somewhere near Salida, the CB came to life, static first. Then a whisper, "Driver." I gripped the mic, my throat dry. "Who is this?" A pause. Then, "You jackknifed, didn't you?" I dropped the mic. It swung and hit the dash, echoing through the cab. The static grew louder, higher pitched, until it became a low hum, vibrating through the steering column. Then my windshield fogged again. 2 words appeared, traced into the condensation from the inside. "Stay still." The truck's engine cut out. The world went quiet for a few seconds. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, then the sound of tires crunching on snow behind me. I looked in the mirror. 2 headlights. Low, yellow, unblinking, coming closer. I don't remember getting out. Don't remember climbing into the other cab. Don't remember sitting down. All I know is when I woke again, I was moving, a blizzard outside. The dashboard clock frozen at 2:14, and on the seat next to me, a frozen CB mic. When I reached for it, it clicked once, and the same voice whispered through the static, "Your turn." That's when I realized something, a memory. I'd buried deep under fear and adrenaline, right before my truck jackknifed that night. I'd seen another rig lose control ahead of me, a red one. I'd swerved to avoid it. And that's when my trailer swung. But that other truck, the one I thought was the cause, wasn't there when I woke up. Maybe it hadn't been ahead of me. Maybe it had been behind me all along. The next morning, they found a truck buried in snow near Monarch Pass. Cab empty. Engine still running. Windshield frosted from the inside. The log clock read 2:14 a.m. They said it must have been a rollover. Ice, fatigue, bad luck. But the highway cam from that night caught one last frame. The cab lights flashing in the storm. Two trucks overlapping for a split second. One jackknifed. One straight. The second truck didn't have a license plate. Didn't have a driver. Just two faint words stenciled on the side and chipped. Red paint. Vos Transport. I still drive sometimes. But only in daylight. Only on flat roads. Every now and then, I'll pass a rest area or an old truck stop and see a red rig parked by itself. Engine idling, snow covering the mirrors. And through the frost on the windshield, I'll catch the faint outline of a man sitting inside, hand on the CB. He never turns his head. Never moves, but once, just once, when I looked too long, the CB in my cab hissed to life. "Stay still," he said. And the world outside my windshield went completely white. I've been driving long enough to know every rest stop on I-70 by smell alone. Diesel, piss, burnt coffee, it's all the same. But rest stop number 12 always felt wrong. You know that stillness that comes before a bad accident. The air goes thick, sound drops out, your skin prickles like you're standing too close to a live wire. That's what hit me the first night I pulled in there. It was past midnight, snow coming down sideways. I'd been hauling insulation out of Denver. Just needed a nap before the next climb. The lot was half buried, only two other rigs parked. Both dark, no lights. The building looked normal enough. Flickering sign, vending machines humming under a flickering fluorescent. But the second I cut my engine, everything else went quiet. No wind, no traffic. No sound from the other trucks. Just silence. I figured maybe it was the storm muffling things. But when I stepped out, the snow wasn't even falling anymore. It just hung there, tiny flakes suspended in the air like dust motes in a photo. Inside, the rest stop lights buzzed faintly. Coffee machine unplugged. Bathroom door propped open. On the wall, a map of Colorado hung crooked, corners curling from damp. Someone had circled rest stop number 12 in black marker and written underneath, "Do not sleep here." I laughed at that. Some bored driver messing around, right? But when I turned toward the window, my reflection was gone. The glass showed the parking lot, my rig. Snow piled around the tires, but not me. Just empty tile where I should have been standing. I backed away slow, heart pounding. Then I heard it. The low hiss of an air brake. Someone else had pulled in. Relief hit me like oxygen. I stepped outside fast, waving before I even saw who it was. Headlights burned through the fog, bright white. A semi rolled up smooth as glass, engine whisper quiet. No logos, no plates, no frost on the mirrors. The driver's window rolled down halfway. A man sat inside, clean shaven, wearing an old-style uniform shirt. He smiled, too wide. "You shouldn't be here," he said. I opened my mouth to answer, but the sound caught in my throat. His voice wasn't coming from his mouth. It was coming from the CB in my cab behind me. I turned. My own truck's lights were on now, though I'd killed the battery. The cab light glowed pale yellow, the door slightly ajar. "Driver," the voice said again through the radio. "Get back in, leave." When I looked back at the other rig, it was gone. No engine noise, no tracks, nothing but smooth snow. That was when I noticed something else. Every truck in the lot, including mine, was idling now, engines humming in perfect rhythm, but there was no one in any of them. I jumped into my cab, slammed the door, and threw it into gear. Nothing happened. The shifter moved, but the truck didn't single quotes d outside. The lights from the other rigs flickered in unison, on, off, until the world became a strobe of white and shadow dot in the flashes. I saw figures standing between the trucks. Dozens of them. All facing me, drivers, frozen expressions. Eyes reflecting the headlights like glass marbles. I slammed the horn, screamed, hit the gas again. The CB whispered, "Don't fight it. We all stop here." The cab lights died. The windshield fogged over from the inside. Letters scrawling across it one by one. "Stay awake." The cold hit next. The kind that burns through gloves, through skin, down into bone. My breath came out in white plumes that didn't fade. They hung in the air like ghosts, twisting into faces before dissolving outside. The figures began to move closer, slow and jerky. Like old film reels, one of them pressed a hand against my window. Frost spread from the touch. Spider webbing the glass, he mouthed something. I couldn't hear then the radio whispered it for him. "You stopped here last winter." Everything inside me went still. Last winter. There'd been a storm just like this. I remembered pulling off somewhere between Eagle and Vale, too tired to keep going. I'd fallen asleep in the cab, heater running, woke up 6 hours later covered in frost. Only, I'd told myself that was somewhere else. I'd forgotten the exit number until now. Rest stop #12. The windshield cleared suddenly, like someone wiped it from the outside. The lot was empty again. My engine finally roared to life. No more figures. No more sound, just silence. I peeled out of there and didn't look back until I hit daylight near Glenwood Springs, when I stopped for fuel. I checked the back of the trailer out of habit, and that's when I saw it. Someone had written in the frost with a fingertip. Shaky but clear. "Thanks for the ride." A week later, I passed that stretch again in daylight. There was no rest stop #12. Just a gravel pull-off and a closed for renovation sign half buried in snow. But I swear, every time I pass it, my CB picks up the same faint frequency. A low hiss, and under it, a voice whispering, "Stay awake."